This is a significant shakeup in the world of federal law enforcement and intelligence. We are tracking a major developing story regarding the leadership of the FBI and the standing of its director, Kash Patel. Reports are now confirming that Donald Trump is actively considering removing Patel from his post, a move that signals a massive fracture within the inner circle. We need to really break down why this is happening, because on the surface, it seems contradictory. Kash Patel was selected specifically for his loyalty. He was brought in to be the ultimate insider, the enforcer, who would align the Bureau with the administration's goals. Yet, less than a year into his tenure, the very man appointed to protect the administration has reportedly become its biggest liability. Let's look at the reporting coming out of Washington. Multiple sources, including breaking reports from MS Now, Reuters, and U.S. News, have confirmed that Donald Trump and his top advisors have reached a breaking point. The headline here isn't just that they are unhappy, it is that the machinery to replace Patel is already being assembled. We are told that Trump is actively inquiring about successors. The name currently floating to the top of that list is Patel's own deputy, a man named Bailey. When the administration starts vetting the deputy to replace the boss, that is usually the final warning sign that the end is near. Now, naturally, the official line from the White House is a denial. You will hear press secretaries and spokespeople claim these reports are false. But we have to analyze this through the lens of how political communications work. In Washington, a denial is often a placeholder. We have seen this pattern repeatedly. Reports surface that a high-ranking official is on thin ice, the administration denies it to buy time, and then, 2 weeks or a month later, that official is gone. The fact that Trump is discussing specific replacements behind closed doors tells us that this has moved beyond mere frustration and into active planning. To understand the gravity of this potential firing, we have to understand the mandate Kash Patel was given and how he failed to execute it. The expectation was clear. Patel was installed to be a shield. The plan was for him to safeguard Donald Trump from investigations and to reshape the FBI. However, instead of operating as a quiet, effective operator, Patel has operated with a level of visibility and recklessness that has invited legal blowback. He hasn't just cleaned house, he has created a spectacle. And if there is one thing Donald Trump historically dislikes in his subordinates, it is when their scandals start to overshadow his own agenda. Let's dig into the specific incidents that have led us to this moment. The first and perhaps most legally dangerous issue is the so-called purge of the Bureau. Upon taking office, Patel initiated the firing of more than 30 FBI agents. Now, personnel changes happen in every administration. But the context here is critical. These weren't random performance-based firings. These were agents specifically targeted because they had worked on investigations involving Donald Trump, matters ranging from the Russia inquiry to the January 6th investigation and the classified documents case. Here is where the legal nuance becomes very important. Under federal employment law and civil service regulations, you generally cannot fire career law enforcement officials strictly for doing their assigned jobs on previous investigations. That constitutes what we call wrongful termination, or, more severely, political retaliation. Patel didn't just fire them, he allegedly handed them a legal smoking gun. According to lawsuits filed by these former officials, Patel explicitly told them he was acting on orders to remove anyone associated with those past investigations. He is quoted in court documents as saying the FBI tried to put Donald Trump in prison, and he hasn't forgotten that. By making those statements, Patel essentially admitted that the personnel decisions were punitive and political, not performance-based. This has triggered a wave of lawsuits from former FBI officials. These lawsuits are not just creating bad headlines, they are creating a discovery process that could drag Donald Trump himself into depositions. If a court finds that the FBI was weaponized to purge political enemies, That opens a Pandora's box of legal consequences for the administration. Patel was supposed to end the legal headaches, but by firing these agents in such a clumsy way, he has actually manufactured new ones. Then we have the competence issue. If you are going to be a controversial figure, you generally need to be good at the job. But reports indicate that Patel has stumbled significantly in the operational management of the Bureau. The most glaring example of this was the Halloween 2025 terror plot announcement. This was a moment where Patel sought to showcase a major victory. He held a high-profile press conference announcing that the FBI had intercepted and stopped a massive, catastrophic terror attack. The rhetoric was apocalyptic. The claim was that they had saved the country from disaster. The media coverage was intense, exactly what Patel wanted. But then the facts started to trickle in. Or rather, the lack of facts. No charges materialized. No arrests stuck. The narrative began to crumble almost immediately. It turned out that the plot was vastly overblown, perhaps based on preliminary chatter that never reached the level of a credible threat. The fallout from this was severe. The Justice Department was furious because the FBI director had gone public with a half-baked story. The rank-and-file agents were embarrassed because their credibility was spent on a PR stunt, and Donald Trump was reportedly irate. You have to remember, Trump views the administration's image as an extension of his own brand. When his FBI director stands on stage and looks incompetent, it makes the entire administration look weak. That Halloween debacle destroyed a significant amount of capital Patel had left with the White House. Beyond the specific botched operations, there is a personality conflict that has made Patel toxic within the building. We are hearing consistent reports about credit-taking. In the intelligence community, the culture is usually one of quiet professionalism. The agency does the work, the director manages the agency. But sources say Patel has a habit of inserting himself into the center of the narrative, acting as if he is personally solving cases in the field. He demands the spotlight. This has alienated the career agents he relies on. When the workforce turns against the leadership, the agency stops functioning efficiently. And when the agency stops functioning, the White House notices. A Yahoo News report put it very bluntly, stating that everyone on the team is angry with Patel. When you have lost the confidence of your own staff, the Justice Department, and the White House advisors, you are essentially a director in name only. There is also a fascinating political undercurrent here involving the confirmation process. We have to rewind to when Patel was first trying to get the job. During his confirmation hearings, Patel faced a hostile Senate. To get confirmed, he had to make concessions. He had to publicly distance himself from some of Donald Trump's most controversial stances, specifically regarding pardons for January 6th rioters. Patel had to sit under oath and say he did not support leniency for those who assaulted police officers. He had to acknowledge the legitimacy of the previous administration. While this was a necessary political maneuver to get the votes, it created a crack in the foundation of trust with the hardline base. The MAGA hardliners viewed those comments as a betrayal. They felt he was bending the knee to the establishment. Donald Trump noticed that tension. So you had a situation where Patel was viewed with suspicion by the loyalists for being too soft during his hearing, and viewed with suspicion by the establishment for being too radical in his actions. He managed to isolate himself from both sides. So, let's analyze the strategy moving forward. Why hasn't he been fired yet? Donald Trump is in a delicate position. He cannot simply fire Patel in a rage because Patel knows where the bodies are buried. As FBI director, Patel has had access to the most sensitive information in the government. He has been privy to the internal decision-making of the White House. If Trump humiliates him publicly, there is a risk that Patel could turn. A scorned FBI director is a dangerous enemy to have. He could write a book, he could testify before Congress, or he could cooperate with the very lawsuits he is currently fighting. This is likely why we are seeing this slow roll approach. The administration is leaking the dissatisfaction to the press to signal to Patel that his time is up, perhaps hoping he resigns quietly or accepts a promotion to a less critical role in the private sector. It is a way of managing the exit without triggering a war. However, the trajectory is clear. The relationship is broken. Trump operates on a transactional basis. He values loyalty, but he values self-preservation more. When a subordinate's actions start to cause legal jeopardy and political embarrassment for the man at the top, the loyalty calculation changes. Patel has become a drag on the administration's poll numbers and a source of legal risk. This situation serves as a broader case study of the second term's internal dynamics. We are seeing a pattern where appointees who were chosen for their ideological fervor are crashing against the realities of governing. It is one thing to campaign on shaking up the FBI. It is another thing to manage a federal law enforcement agency without triggering obstruction of justice charges. Patel tried to run the FBI like a campaign arm, and the legal system is pushing back. The implications for the coming months are significant. If Patel is ousted, the confirmation battle for his successor, likely Deputy Bailey or another insider, will be brutal. The Senate will want answers about the agent purges. They will want to know if the next director plans to continue these policies. Furthermore, the lawsuits filed by the fired agents are not going away. Even if Patel leaves, the discovery process continues. The question of whether the White House ordered a political purge of the FBI will remain active in the courts. In fact, Patel's departure might make it easier for the truth to come out, as he will no longer be protected by the shield of his office. To summarize the state of play, Kash Patel, the man who was supposed to be the ultimate loyalist enforcer, has found himself isolated, facing legal action, and on the verge of being fired. He miscalculated his mandate. He thought his job was to wage a political war, but he waged it so clumsily that he ended up wounding the very administration he was sworn to protect. Donald Trump appears ready to cut the cord. The planning is happening. The vetting of successors is underway. The only remaining question is not if, but when, and how messy the divorce will be. As we have seen with so many figures in this orbit, from Michael Cohen to Steve Bannon, loyalty is a one-way street. You are useful until you are a problem. And right now, Kash Patel is a very big problem.